Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage today, and only today, we are here for the long-awaited video that I have been dying to make, dying to discuss, dying to sit down and have with you. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have been waiting for this, and that is going to be a Sonic Racing CrossWorlds versus Mario Kart World video, right? I have now logged about over 100 hours, basically, in both of these games, and I feel like at that point, it's fair to say, one, I enjoy both of these games, and two, I feel like I can have a very fair, fun discussion about this. So I want you guys to sit down with me, make sure to subscribe to your boys, support the content, and let's get right into a big, meaty topic. With the help of my friend Kaizen, who, you know, is also my editor, I actually have a bunch of questions lined up about the game that's probably going to help us, you know, give points to each game. You know, I think that's how we're going to do this. We're going to go this bullet point style, right, of each aspect of the game and see which one is better in which, Sonic or Mario. I do think, you know, one thing I want to say is that at the end of the day, this is a fun video game discussion. You know, this isn't me trying to, you know, go like, oh my God, like, don't buy this one, buy this one. I love both of these games. I think these games are both awesome, and they're both probably gonna have things in here that are super subjective. So as always, in the comment section below, be very nice to each other, be very cool, and let's get right into it. So before we get into the topics, I want to talk about a little bit of my thoughts going into this video, even like just this year, right? I will say, if you had asked me when this year started, right, when I knew Sonic was coming out, Mario Kart was coming out, if this would even be a discussion, I would have said, damn hell no, bro. I would have said Mario Kart got this shit unlocked because my entire life, I have been a Mario Kart person. I adore that franchise. I would argue Mario Kart as a brand of Nintendo is probably one of my favorites ever, just because I have such incredible memories with the series, right? And so going into this year, knowing we were getting a new Sonic Racing game, of course I was excited, you know, but in my mind, as soon as I knew Mario Kart World was happening, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited for Sonic, but holy shit, Mario Kart is about to eat this, you know, for lunch, right? But, you know, we got the early on in the year open network test for Sonic, and suddenly things felt different, right? I played that network test and I was like, whoa, this is like awesome. You know, this is some really good shit in terms of polish, in terms of, you know, visual design, in terms of style, like, and I'm obviously ready to get into all this, but it no longer felt like when I saw Mario Kart World trailers that I was immediately like, it's over. I was immediately thinking like, huh, these two feel like they're doing very different things, even though they're competing in the same market. But it is safe to say that in general, Mario Kart always had the leg up on a racing game until now. I mean, before we get into this, like, this has been the most ever out of all my time on YouTube, out of all my time on the internet, that I have ever seen people compare a Sonic and a Mario thing. You know, there's always been comparisons of the Sonic Mario platformers and all that, but this feels different. This feels like everyone is constantly back and forth about it. Now, obviously, part of that is the climate of the internet, but again, a big part of it is that, like, there is competitive worthiness here. All right, let's start this with aspect one, which is probably the biggest deal. Which of these two games, Mario Kart World or Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, has the better gameplay? Which game feels better to play while racing? So this one, oh, this one's a toughie, right? Because both of these games are have their gimmick and their thing. So with Mario Kart World, right, I feel like gameplay wise, it's pretty standard, right? You know, they sort of continue what they did with Mario Kart 8, where you have your gliding, you have the water sections, but this time the water is actually above the water instead of underwater. The main gimmick and change that they did to the gameplay in World is that you have the jump button, and the jump button is really cool, right? I gotta say, like, the jump button is super fun because you can jump onto walls, onto a grind rail. Like, there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. I do wish it was a bit more of a necessary thing for the game, right? Like, it very much feels like, hey, here's an optional thing you want if, like, you want to be kind of cool. But I almost wish, like, the game heavily rewarded you for pulling off those paths, because I've had a lot of times where, like, you know, I take a different path because I jump to it and it doesn't really matter. While I think the jump mechanic is fun and opens up some of the level design, I do think overall Mario Kart World, in terms of its gameplay, is pretty safe. You know, it's polished, it's fun, it's safe, it's reliable. Like, you know, that's the biggest thing. It's like, it's Mario Kart, right? You're gonna get that premium polished feel of it. But I will say, right, when we are comparing it a little bit to Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, I gotta say, man, I really love the gameplay of Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. The one thing I want to know most importantly, more than anything, is the speed. Like, I've been jumping back and forth between these two games just to see what's going on with them, and I think the speed of Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is unbelievably faster than Mario Kart World. I don't know what it is with Mario Kart World. I don't know if it's because Sonic Racing is much faster that going back to World feels slower, but the 150cc in Mario Kart World feels slower, you know, whereas I feel like Sonic Racing CrossWorlds makes you feel super fast because you can get, you know, these constant, you know, switch between the drifts, right? You know, there's boost pads, it feels like everywhere, right? There's like ways to make builds that are super fast. Like, I feel like overall, for me, that's a little bit more appealing. I want to be able to go fast, feel fast, right? And obviously, we talked about it with Mario Kart a little bit, but with Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, the gimmick of the gameplay, again, it's sort of like Mario Kart, where you have your flying sections, your water sections, your regular karting, but there's also the addition of gameplay due to the gadgets, right? The gadgets is going to be the big one that's going to set you apart from your friends. And the gadgets, I really do think, tremendously change how you play the game, right? So you can have gadget builds that, you know, make it so that you are a completely defensive player, right? You can make it so that your defense is up, you get more defensive items, and, you know, nothing can stop you, right? You can get items that are all based on speed, right? Where you make it so that, like, all right, I get a speed tuner on, you know, I've got, you know, extra speed if I bump into people, I get more speed if I do this, like, or you can make your build completely drift based. And so I immediately find the gameplay in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds more engaging, because you are not only engaging with the race, but you are engaging with the gadgets you have. I really do feel, on a gameplay sense, that Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is a little bit more exciting, right? And even if you think about the water and the flying section, I can tell you right now, I feel like there's no question that Sonic is better. The water sections, I can't stand the water sections of Mario Kart World. That's like one thing like about the game, that's the one thing I don't like, is the water in Mario Kart World does not feel good to drift on, to race on. Whereas in Sonic Racing, like, I love charging up, you know, the meter to do the big trick jump in the air. Like, that's extremely fun, right? And then the flying section in Sonic is actually a flying section, as opposed to Mario Kart, which is more of like a, hey, just glide downward slowly. I do think this is like the first time since maybe like OG Riders that I really think, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and this is gonna be my take for this one. I think Sonic takes this one. I think Sonic, in terms of, you know, the gameplay, is the better choice. And I think this, again, just boils down to the fact that, like, because of the game's options, you have just a lot more ways to engage with the gameplay, as opposed to, again, Mario Kart World, which is safe. But I think overall, for me, Sonic is going to take the gameplay category by far, which I never thought I'd be saying, you know? Oh, next up, a fun one. Better roster. All right, so I think we could kind of agree that in a year, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds roster will be better than Mario Kart's. I love, obviously, you know, we have the crossover aspect of the game. And, you know, I will say, before I, like, kind of gush about Mario Kart's, I will say what I like about Sonic is, you know, you have your 24 Sonic characters in there, right? And what's cool about them is it feels like they're a little bit more alive due to the fact that you have, you know, the rival races, the interactions between them. But then we have the additive nature that we are going to get 15 Sega or, you know, third-party IP characters, as well as the season pass that's gonna have Pac-Man, Mega Man, SpongeBob, Avatar, TMNT, and Minecraft. In the future, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds roster will be better, but I mean, I think for now, it's undoubtable that I think Mario takes it. You know, you have all your Mario standards, you know, your Lakatus, your Marios, your Luigis, your Toadettes, your Toads, your Peaches, you know, Daisies, and now you have the added NPC characters, so you can race as a Cactar if you want, or a Pokey, or, you know, a Pianta. You know, it's like there's a ton of options. I know some people criticize the NPC characters taking slots, which I don't think is the case. And I do wish there were some weird picks. You know, I wish you got your weird EGADs or your Mario spin-off characters that a lot of people talk about. In a year from now, I think Sonic's will be better, right? Because you have the fun aspect of all the Sonic characters, as well as 15 additional, characters, as well as the DLC. It's going to be a roster of over 50 plus characters eventually. At the very least for launch, I think we can all agree that, like, the Mario cast plus all the NPC characters is a little bit more engaging in that sense. So for now, better roster is going to go to Mario Kart World. Okay, we're 1-1 so far. Okay, shit, both boys are fighting. I can respect this. Oh, this one's a fun one. Better character and kart cosmetic customization. Okay, this, I mean, it would go to Mario Kart, right? For sure. You have costumes, right? A bunch of costumes, actually, which, we've been begging for Sonic. But kart customization is incredibly Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, because, and I think for me, that kind of edges this category to Sonic. And let me tell you why, right? I love that Mario Kart has costumes. It's awesome, right? And, a lot of the karts are really cool. In fact, one thing I like about Mario Kart World is that they sort of got rid of the system where you could change the wheels, the base, and the glider, just because it kind of made things a little bit complicated. On the flip side, Sonic kind of has that, right? But you have the additive nature of being able to fully customize your vehicle. You can change the colors, the stickers. I've seen people make some incredibly creative, devices, and creations. And I think for me, the reason why that stands out a lot is because when I go online and I see someone's unique thing, I'm like, oh shit, that's really cool, right? I can make that, or like, oh, I'd love to try to make something like that. People can make different cars and colors and customization based on different series or things they love, or just having random colors that they really like. And I think that expression makes it more engaging when you see people online. This is a weird one where, like, you know what I would do? Like, I would separate these two, I would go like, better character customization. I think that entirely goes to Mario Kart, and then I would go for kart customization by far. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. I really think these are the even split, because if Sonic Racing CrossWorlds had the kart customization and character costumes, it would have been GG's. But I cannot deny that having costumes in Mario Kart is finally a blessing. I wish there were a lot more. I'm getting a little greedy here, considering, with Sonic we have like 2, and they're getting there with Sonic. Like, there is an alt version of Sage, there is, the AI racers, but we need a lot more, and I hope, hopefully they end up getting that. All right, this is about to be the probably toughest and longest category to discuss. Better level design, track layout, and structure. So, this one, I mean, where do I even begin, right? Obviously, with this the game. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and claim I'm a godly pro at, track analyzing, but this one's tough, right? Because so with Mario Kart World, you have about 30 tracks in the game, some retro, some new, and with Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, you have about 24 tracks in the game, most new, some returning. And I gotta say, right, right before this video, I replayed all of the racetracks in Mario Kart World. I gotta say, man, like, some of these are really great. I think that the tracks in this game are super fun. I think of like Whistletop Summit with like all the grind rails everywhere and the wall jumps you could do as a super cool one. The Sweet Slide area where it's like, it has all the Birdo statues and you're driving on the water and there's all the rails. Shy Guy Bazaar coming back, but like you can finally actually, go on like ride on the pipes and on the lines and everything, which is pretty cool. But I will say, like, for the most part, I feel a little disappointed with Mario Kart World's track design. It feels a little bit safer than I would have liked. And there's something about Mario Kart World's areas that the tracks feel like they end so soon. And let me tell you what I mean. Like, a prime example is Boo Cinema, right? Boo Cinema, I think you think of it visually as one of the best in the game, right? Because you jump into the painting, the art style changes, and then it just kind of ends. Like, you literally go in the painting, the art style changes, you do 2 drifts, and then you leave it. Because I'm like, all right, now that I'm in the movie, make it feel like I'm actually driving through a movie, and I'm not just, the art style changes, and that's really it. If we're talking, like, the base tracks of the game, there is something about Mario Kart Worlds that feel I don't know how you say it, like feels standard to me. Like I wish they had done more. And I wonder if that partially is due to the fact that it's connected to this open world. Everything feels like it's outside in Mario Kart World, right? Whereas like it's something like a Mario Kart 8, because all these levels were in like their own isolated areas that they would create for the game, right? It felt like they could do a lot more crazy stuff. And it feels like they're missing those sort of like weird, unique Mario areas in the game. And really the only two sky levels you get to are Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road, which to be fair, Rainbow Road is an unbelievable treat. I do think obviously it's a little long, like people say, not much going on with it, but it's visually a delight. And, you know, we'll get to visuals later for sure. But track layout is a difficult one because then you get to Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, which I really do think hones into more arcade racer type track layouts. You know, a lot of tight drifts into some jumps. I think, you know, choosing to go either on flying sections or on the ground is like its own different challenge you're picking, you know. And I think of like the levels and the areas you go to, they fix the problem I have with Mario Kart, which is like, all right, you can have Pumpkin Mansion as a level, right? You can have Radical Highway that you go to. You can suddenly be in Kronos Island, you know, for one of the levels. You could be at an Eggman Expo. Like, it feels like the areas and levels can be their own self-isolated, unique things because they're not connected to an open world. I think that's the big thing about Mario Kart where it struggles, is that because it's all meant to be connected, you can't have these isolated tracks that like can be like their own skybox, right? Their own unique world, their own unique area. It feels like they have to be within the confines of this open world. And while the track layouts are really great and really fun, I wish they had gone a bit more with them. Obviously, we're going to get into some of the CrossWorlds that are super fun with their ideas, right? But I love how like the Sonic layout, what's cool is like on lap 3, things will change constantly. Like you'll go to white space and suddenly like on the 3rd lap, it's all dark and messed up and you're flying in the sky, right? Or, you know, you'll go to a different level like, you know, even the North Star Islands where like one of the paths will open on lap 3, or Wonder Museum, everything comes to life. Like, I don't know. This one is a tough one, and I don't think there's a definitive answer for this, and it's really going to depend on what you like more. So I honestly, I'm going to tie this one. I think this one, I'm going to go for Sonic and Mario. I think they both do really cool stuff. I think Mario has the advantage of having more track layouts, but I do think like Sonic owns these sort of unique areas of the game, again, because they can be in their own isolated, you know, in Puck, dude. Yeah, no, I can't really choose. I'm going to go Sonic and Mario for this one. This is going to depend on who you ask. Next up, we have better items, right? Now, obviously, you know, these are kart racers, so the item discussion is going to be a big one. This is one that I'm not going to lie to you guys, I've thought about and I've had a lot of discussions. This is so hard for me to decipher because ultimately these two have like pretty similar items. You know, you have the wisps, which are like your mushroom equivalents. You have the drill, which is the bullet bill. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to the items and item balancing, these guys are pretty standard. I mean, they're both kart racers, and so you are gonna have stuff like moments that screw you over. Like, I've had people complain about both, saying, you know, Mario Kart World's items are incredibly unbalanced, right? And then some people saying the same with Sonic. Now, the only thing I give Sonic in terms of the items is they are not as lethal, and that's because of the builds, right? Like, you could straight up make a gadget build in the game that, like I said earlier, is completely defensive, right? And I think that, to me, is what balances the items in Sonic Racing a bit more, right? I think the fact that I can have a build that's entirely like quick recovery, defense items up, right? And, you know, you could block the items coming towards you. There's way more ways to circumvent getting hit in the game. Now, obviously, it's still a kart racer. It's still possible, but it does feel like in Mario Kart, obviously with 24 players also inherently, you can get a lot more bullied in the game. I mean, you could be in first and then get lightninged and then get mega mushroom and then get red shell and then get gold star hit and go all the way back in 24th. And so while I think both items pretty much are like the same, I do think I'm gonna give this one to Sonic, just because, again, there are way more ways to counter items as opposed to Mario Kart, where like you are defenseless so much more of the time and you can get screwed over way worse and you're barely gonna have protection. All right, next up we have better visuals and aesthetic, how sexy each game looks and performs for each game. So thankfully, both of these games are pretty good looking, 60 FPS. But I mean, I can't lie to you guys. This one has to go to Mario Kart. I mean, you look at the characters' expressions and faces that they're doing on all the tricks. It's way more up there. You know, you literally have a photo mode to flex all of their poses and different positions, right? You know, you have different character expressions. Like, I feel like just on a character expression base alone, Mario Kart takes it. Now, granted, I think visually and aesthetically, there's a lot of pleasing things about, you know, Sonic, but I think like Mario Kart does have a bit more of the polish. You know, we've all had moments now in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds where we've gotten stuck on a wall, right? You know, whereas like with Mario Kart, you're always gonna get that like premium Nintendo polish that, like, you know, some people still have criticism with, you know, the trick animations being like, you know, how weird they move around, even though I don't really care about that stuff. But there's something about Mario Kart's like polish in terms of its movements, animations that are a little bit just better. For this one, I think we're gonna have to go with Mario Kart for the champ. Damn, this is a tight fight. I'm very curious to see which ends up taking it at the end of it. Better track connectors, Intermissions versus CrossWorlds. So yeah, both of these games attempt this new concept, which are like track connectors, right? So with Mario Kart, you have the gimmick of intermissions, right? So, you know, in online, most of the time you're forced into it. You are basically racing so in Sonic Racing, it's funny. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, the whole thing is the second lap of the game is a crossworld, a new area you go to. Whereas in Mario Kart, it's that you start your race driving towards the track and then you do one lap. Obviously, depending on who you ask, has pissed off a lot of people, right? This is, you know, driven people crazy. This has caused wars on the internet. People calling the intermissions boring, lame, you know, straight liners. And look, I do like the intermissions, but I feel like my enjoyment of intermissions just comes from the fact that, like, I'm just kind of playing the game, right? And I'm just getting from point A to point B and it's fun. But yeah, there's definitely a lack of joy of the unique tracks that comes with the intermissions. You know, you are mainly doing a few drifts. Yeah, obviously there's some openness to them, right? And there's some cool scenery and there's some cool ones you get to. But dude, again, the crossworlds I just think are so much more engaging because one, they don't take away from your main race, right? And two, it feels like it makes the tracks dynamic because the crossworlds are designed to be like an actual full track that you could literally, even in time trials, go and 3-lap standard. In online, second lap could just be any of the game's tracks, as you know, the intermission crossroad area. There's like the Golden Palace one. Like, I don't know. I think for me, the crossroads here are like by far the better track connector, but I don't want to take away from the fact that there are literally like technically 200 intermissions, which would make that, you know, objectively a lot more, but that does add also a lot more fluff, right? Like it is a lot of them that are just, hey, you're driving on a driveway on the way to somewhere, you know, like there's some bumps and turns, but like a lot of them can just be like, I just kind of want to be on the main track. And if I'm not on the main track and I'm driving from one to another, it's a knockout tour where I'm trying to survive. But sometimes it's like you could just be so far back, and being far back in one of those intermission like areas is just not fun. So for me, this one in terms of better track connectors is going to go to Sonic. Damn guys, we're having a good back and forth on this one. I like it a lot. All right, next up, single player content. Oh my god, this one is going to be, sit down for this one. I have so many thoughts on this one, man. Let's start with Mario Kart World. So Mario Kart single player offerings are obviously the open world. You have your Grand Prix, you have, I guess, Knockout Tour is technically like a single player mode as well you could do, and then I guess Versus, right? Whereas, and your time trials, right? So, and then Sonic has the same thing. You have Grand Prix, you have Chow Park, which is your unique mode that you have in there, and you have obviously time trials. So let's talk about, you know, the big one that everybody goes to first in any game, Grand Prix, right? Grand Prix, I think I kind of agree and everybody agrees. Sonic washes Mario Kart in this. With Mario Kart's Grand Prix, it's the very Grand Prix. You go through the racetracks. You know, in fact, some people don't even like the Grand Prix because you have to go intermissions and then you do one lap through the main track and it's over. Whereas Sonic completely nailed making a Grand Prix that's replayable and more enjoyable, right? They created the rival system where, you know, they gamified the CPU that's always on your ass and made it so that, one, you have unique dialogue with them to start off these races, you know, and obviously every character has different interactions. So you have like a shit ton. Obviously, I did a video reacting to like over 3 hours of them, which you can go check out. But like in terms of just the Grand Prix, like I just think it's no question how much, you know, Sonic destroys Mario in that sense. They gamified Grand Prix so much, whether it's earning the tickets, right? Whether it's the rival races, whether it's having to beat all the rivals in order to unlock Super Sonic, like it has unique unlockables in there, which Mario Kart has too. Like that's how you get Daisy and Donkey Kong, which is like a funny thing that you have to earn through that, right? Like the standard game characters. But it doesn't really offer like a really cool reward or incentive. Like I've played Mario Kart over 100+ hours, and I played through Grand Prix all of once, and I was good and I was out, right? Whereas within Sonic, I replayed those Grand Prix a bunch to get tickets, you know, to get more of those challenges in game done, because the game has in-game challenges for you to do with Grand Prix, and again, to unlock Super Sonic. Time trials, right? By 10 million miles is folded by Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Holy shit, Mario Kart, the time trials are just, hey, play through the track and beat the time. In Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, every few time trials you A rank, you get new songs in the game. Boom. All right, you can also have timers based on each lap to show you how well you performed on each lap. Boom. Right? Mario Kart doesn't have that. In, you know, Sonic, you can earn up to an S rank, which, boom, already having a ranking system immediately makes it more enticing. You could see every character's world records and stuff, which you could do at Mario Kart as well. But no question in my mind, I would say the Sonic Racing CrossWorlds time trial is probably the best and most engaging time trials I've ever played in a kart racer. You know, the fact that it counts each lap, it shows you how well you did in each one, showing your goals, the ranking system incentivizing you to unlock music for the game and just play the game more, I just think has made it a much more enjoyable experience. And then I guess you could argue, like with Chow Park, that's another mode in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds that you could do single player or multiplayer, and you have a massive incentive there, which is, you know, when you play the Chow Park modes, you literally unlock, you know, different cars, right? You unlock different cars through that mode, right? You know, you fight the AI racers, the difficulty raises, like there's a gamification of it. Whereas like, it really feels like in Mario Kart, it doesn't have that. But one thing that Mario Kart has that Sonic doesn't, an open world, right? And the open world is, oh man, I have so much to say about the open world. The open world on paper is fantastic. And I even think in some ways it's like underrated, right? Because if you explore the free roam open world of Mario Kart, there's a lot to do. In fact, there's a shit ton of do in terms of the P block challenges that you can find in there, but there's a lack of reasoning to do any of it, right? Like you're kind of just doing the P block switch challenges just to do them, right? Because unlockables in the game are very lame. Because if you wanted all the character costumes, you could just fast travel to any location on the map, go get the food from that place, and then just dip, instead of like actually earning them. I think that's my biggest flaw with Mario Kart World, is that this open world they created that is so cool feels like they didn't gamify it. It feels like they made the challenges, and then they were like, didn't do anything with it. Like, you know, I would have like, dude, it would have been a no-brainer if you made it so that that single player was like, all right, if you do 10 P block challenges, boom, you get a costume. Oh, look, a toad right here tells you to do this challenge over here. Boom, you get like a car color paint, you know, boom, you do this, you get this. Like, there is zero things to the open world. You know, even Zelda, a game that's all about, you know, go explore, do your own thing. That game, you're earning stuff left and right. You know, imagine you did like the shrines in Zelda and like you just got a thumbs up emoji for doing them. At least in Zelda, you know, when you're doing all those shrines, you get, you know, the piece that helps you eventually upgrade your stamina, upgrade your health bar, right? That's sort of like reward in Mario Kart World is extremely lacking, because the reward you get is like a sticker, you know, and the stickers you cannot see. Whereas, like I said, in Sonic, in terms of the single player and multiplayer, you're earning tickets, right? You're unlocking car parts through that. Things are expensive, so you have things to unlock for a long time basis. And like, that's what drives me crazy, is that on paper, for single player content, Mario Kart should have it, right? But I think the lack of reward or anything to strive for makes it less appealing than Sonic, where like I have spent an insane amount of time, like I said, doing time trials to get better rankings, because it's treated like a Sonic game in that sense to get better rankings, you know, doing all the Grand Prix over and over because I want to unlock Super Sonic, right, and see all the rival dialogue. Like, this is one that overall for me should have been a shoe-in for Mario, but is going to Sonic Racing for me. It really hurts me to say, because I feel like this could change drastically in a year from now if they like updated and overhauled Mario Kart World's open world system. Dude, it wasn't even until recently in Mario Kart World where like you could track the P-switch challenges that you've done. You know, like for the first few months of that game's life, you were just going stranded, like roaming around, praying for life that you found these. That's how like sort of insignificant it is to your progressions. They don't even care. They're just like, just go do something. Next up, multiplayer content. Oh my god, I feel so bad for Mario Kart right now because it feels like it's getting dogged on these categories. Yeah, no, multiplayer content, I don't think this is a question or a discussion. Sonic clears the shit out of this one, right? I'll talk about both, but yeah, in Mario Kart, the multiplayer content is you could do Knockout Tour, which I will say, Knockout Tour is one of the best things Nintendo has ever made. It's essentially their battle royale mode. You have the 24 players. You're seeing people get knocked out left to right. It is awesome, and I will say it is some of the most fun I have ever had in a car racer. To this day, I still like to try to go in there, try to get a win because it's satisfying, it's intense, it's difficult, right? But I think that's the only thing of value for me in terms of the multiplayer. That's like, and that's the big deal, right? Because in terms of the multiplayer in Mario Kart, it has that problem where like, if you go on public lobbies, the only thing you're earning is like these points, right? And the points have like nothing to them. There's no like ranking system that makes you feel like you're actually grinding towards something, whether it's, you know, new auras, new effects, new car parts that are exclusive to hitting this point milestone, right? It's like in Sonic, in multiplayer 1, you're actually ranking up, right? You know, you're going from A minus, or B plus, all the way up to Legend, and you can grind from Legend 8 all the way to Legend 1, which is still brutal, but you can do that, you know. But there's that, and then there's the fact that, you know, when it comes to Mario Kart, it's just, there's nothing to strive for online. It's just kind of like go in there, right? And then with Sonic, it feels like there's something to strive for. They also have, you know, that you can queue in and invite 4 of your friends to go into public lobbies with, right? You can actually customize fully all your rooms. You can send you specific invites to people. The events, right? Like, dude, we are literally on week 2.5 of this game out, and we've already had 2 events in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds that have incentivized people to play together, work together. Whereas with Mario Kart, it feels like it is just the bare minimum. It feels like it's just like you have online. Buy, like, have fun. It's like with Sonic, it feels like there's something to strive for, there's something to engage with, whether it's the events, whether it's queuing in with your friends, whether it's, you can even do the Chow Park challenges online with 4 of your friends if you want to. Now, granted, only the person hosting gets the reward, so there's definitely like a flaw there, but like, there is at least, again, something to work with your friends there. There are things to do. Like, this upsets me so much because Mario Kart should do a lot more and should be a lot more with its multiplayer. I think by far, no question, Sonic takes the best multiplayer content by like a mile. But again, I will say Knockout Tour still, I would love an elimination mode like that for Sonic Racing, because I think Knockout Tour is one of the best things Nintendo's ever done. Which game has the better replay value / reasons to stay? Again, we kind of touched on this earlier when we touched on the single player content. I still think this goes to Sonic. You know, like I said, there are reasons to replay all the Grand Prix, you know, beating all the enemies. There's reasons to redo and get better at time trials to get all the better S ranks. You know, there's reasons to level up. You know, there's reasons to rank up online because so you can unlock new auras. There's reasons to go play the events because there's unique stuff you can do, unique modes. Like, I think this just ties into kind of the other one where Sonic just has this. Again, Mario, in terms of replay value, I think is pretty weak. But the open world technically has a lot of value to it if you just want to jump in and try to get everything. OST, does Jukebox give an edge? Obviously, you know, music is incredibly subjective, right? This is one that I don't know if I can fairly judge. But I will say, this one might be Mario Karts, because with Sonic, I think there's some incredible music. You know, I think Blizzard Valley is a fantastic trap track. I love, you know, some of the E Stadium music in there. I love Coral Town. Like, there's a lot of beautiful tracks in Sonic, from lap 1s to lap 3 variations, right? And you have obviously the jukebox where you can pick all the songs you want and customize that. But Mario Kart World's whole gimmick and whole thing, you have 200 plus songs that were orchestrated and remixed by the Mario team from songs across the entire series history. And so I think with that alone, Mario Kart might have a bit of an edge here. Again, music is subjective, and like I said, there's a lot of songs in Sonic Racing that I actually think of and love a lot more. And yes, the jukebox does give Sonic a bit of an edge here, but I do think, you know, with Mario Kart, you have relaxing remixes of songs. You have like random, you know, EDM remixes of Baby Park. You have songs all across Mario history remixed, not even just Mario Kart, but like just Mario games, Wario games, Luigi. Like, they have songs remixed up and down and left and right with the Mario OST. So I'm gonna have to just give it to Mario Kart, just because, like, again, there's over 7 hours of Mario Kart World soundtrack on YouTube, and that's not even all the songs in the game. Not necessarily quantity doesn't always mean better quality, but I can assure you, from the ones I've heard and the ones that are in there, there is both in Mario Kart Worlds. For now, for the very least for now, Sonic has this category in the bag. You know, I think this is something that could change in the future for Mario Kart, right? Because, you know, I'm sure eventually they're going to announce new content and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think Sonic has done an incredible job here with, you know, showing a roadmap, showing the promise, discussing all these things, you know, about, you know, the future, whether it's the DLC characters, the free characters, the events going on. Like, it already feels like we've gotten post-launch content, whereas, like, again, with Mario Kart, it's just... it frustrates me with Mario Kart because I want to play the game and I want to love the game, but that feeling of having nothing to do in it except, you know, just play the game, which is great, it just feels like that's what gives Sonic an edge here, you know. And I wish Mario Kart had more to do, because I really like playing that game and I want more things to do, but I want more options. I think, like I said, overall, these games are really fucking awesome. And I do think in a year from now, I'm going to be curious to see specifically where Mario Kart's at. You know, because with Sonic, we already kind of know the roadmap, right? And we know where the game is going to be at in a year. Obviously, there could be additions and changes that we don't even know about that make the game even better. But we have a general idea in a year from now. With a deluxe booster course pack, you got what? It was like 40 courses from across the series history with like 10 plus characters. Like, there was a lot of value thrown in the game. And then, you know, the question is going to be, is Nintendo going to charge for it? Are they actually going to go with it being free, at least for the first few months, because the game was $80? Like, I don't know, but I will say my thing with Mario Kart World is that there are a million things about it I adore that I just wish they had thought about. You know, like, again, I love the costumes, right? And I like the cars in there, but I wish the way you earned them was from the single player in a substantial way. You know, reward, like, that open world is so good, and it should be it should be the master of it all. Like, it should be what trumps everything, right? But the thing about this is that, like, it feels like there was zero connection made to it, right? Like, it feels like there should have been so much more made for it and done for that world, besides, like, just go do these challenges and, you know, slap out a little tiny sticker on the corner of your car you might be able to see. Whereas, like, with Sonic, you know, the single player content feels addicting, and even if it's not the meatiest thing in the world, they did a good job of making it feel replayable and addicting in there. But, like, again, it's not to say that I don't like the open world in Mario Kart. Like, I spent a lot of time in there. I got to over 200 of the P block switches that are there, so clearly I found a lot of enjoyment in it. It always felt like I was just kind of mindlessly driving around, but it's like, it upsets me that they don't care to interconnect it or incentivize you to play it, because there are so many cool things in that open world, right? But the open world's also shoehorned them into making tracks that have to connect to the open world instead of being, you know, randomly placed, right? And it feels like they shoehorned themselves. Whereas again, Sonic, because of it being a traditional kart racer, has been able to, you know, make unique tracks all around, you know. But then you have Mario Kart, which has 24 players, which is a little bit more chaotic, and you want some chaos in these kart racers. Like, I don't know, it's a very difficult topic, right? While I think Sonic right now has the edge, I do think there's a world where in a year from now, or even 6 months from now, when Nintendo eventually adds more tracks, maybe some new knockout tour modes in there, 200cc, right, new characters, like there's a lot they can do to really upgrade and make the game a better thing. But for now, I am gonna give points to Sonic Racing Crossroads, but I do want to say overall I am happy that this discussion is even happening. I'm happy that we're gonna have Kirby's Air Ride in a month, right? And I still stand by the conversation of two cakes. I think they both have their pluses and minuses, right? And I think they're games that are gonna be better over time, right? And I'm just happy that both of these exist. Do I wish both of them had things that the other could actually trade? Like, hey, you lob me your costumes, I'll lob you card customizations, let's trade ideas in there. Of course, right? And that's why I think these games are going to evolve. I think they're going to compete with each other. And the fact that the discussion is even happening is very impressive, because I never in my life would have thought that we were going to have a Mario versus Sonic kart racer discussion. Like, that's something that's super exciting to me. And I think at the end of the day, like, it is important to have more of this genre explored and more of this genre be competitive, because I really do think Mario Kart has had the monopoly really on the kart racer forever. You know, you have your occasional moments in there where like Crash Team Racing, you know, broke into the market again with the new game that came out, or, you know, or like something like Mod Nation Racers on PS3 that did well. But like for the most part, Mario Kart felt like the standard champion, whereas I really feel like Crossroads is the first time, even in Sonic Racing history, that it's felt like there has been a genuine competitive conversation, debate, and exploration of what these two can be head to head. What differences can they make amongst each other? What can they do against one another? You know, and that stuff is absolutely exciting for me, and I'm really excited to see where these games go. But yeah, that's going to be it for me here today, guys. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comment section below of all the bullet points I made, if you would give it to one over the other. You know, join alongside me, try to discuss it with me. And yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Thank you all for watching. You guys are the best. Thank you all for supporting the content, and of course I will see you all next time. Peace out.
Yeah.